Hey, yo, and what's up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Let me tell you something. Randy Orton opened up tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw in the dark wearing a mask. He was in the dark and he was flickering around his little match that he lit up because of all the fire that the WWE's been doing. But he's got this mask on, right? Because he wants to shield us and he wants to protect us from the scars and the horror that he endured when he got his face burnt off by Alexa Bliss. So I figured maybe that would work for us too. So I said, let me put my mask on. Maybe it will protect me and also protect you guys from the horror and the pains that I had to endure watching tonight's absolutely terrible episode of Monday Night Raw. Thusly, it did not work. Randy Orton's whole gimmick is a lie. It makes you wonder why he's even wearing the mask in the first place. If your face was all burnt up and your skin was all melty and irritated and raw, this type of shit is not what you want on your face. It's irritating to me, and my face is not burnt up. Also, his whole nose was exposed, right? So his nose was all burnt up and it was all red with the makeup and they made it look all distorted and whatever. So what's the point of the mask? Are you trying to hide the scars or not? What are you trying to do here, Mr. Randy Orton, with the sock and 3 holes cut out of it placed on your face? We're going to talk about that and so much more as we go over all of the things wrong with tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review and reaction show. Let's do it. Randy Orton style.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
All right, back to normal. Thank God. That was a tough thing for me to film in that open there. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because if you thought that was great, then you probably thought what you were seeing at the beginning of Monday Night Raw with Randy Orton and his little sock on his head, little opening. I had to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's get into all of the things that were wrong with tonight's show. It was an absolutely terrible edition of Monday Night Raw, and let's get going right from the top of the show all the way through to the end. First and foremost is the fact that this show is a replica of last week's show, almost in its entirety, from beginning to end, and pretty much in the exact same order that they did it on last week's terrible show. Somewhere along the line they said, let's take last week's ridiculous script, tweak it just a minor little bit, and just call it a day. Because we're that lazy and that uncreative and we can't tell stories anymore, so let's just do what we do every week. This has essentially been the same show all year since the start of 2021. So that is a huge, huge thing wrong right off the bat. Randy Orton in his fancy little mask, standing in the back in the dark, didn't really care too much about The Fiend, because what he had to say to us was, it doesn't matter if you try to burn me to a crisp. I don't blame Alexa Bliss for doing what she had to do last week. It doesn't matter if you cut my arms off. He's still going to be in, and claims that he is going to win this year's Royal Rumble. Nobody wants any part of that, and you would think that his primary focus would be to get revenge on The Fiend. If I'm Randy Orton in this situation, I'm like, fuck the Royal Rumble, man. I'm going to kick your ass, and I am going to get you for what you just did to me. Sounds a little bit more like what Randy Orton would do if you ask me, but that's not what we got here on this night. Moving right along, they announced the appearance of Gold Turd on the Dirt Sheet, which is probably the worst talk show segment in a land of terrible talk show segments that populates the WWE. I hate Miz TV. I hate the Dirt Sheet, not just because Miz and Morrison are just way past their expiration date. They're not funny. They are boring and just, at this point, just cringe TV, 110%. It's the guests that they have on and the things that they are going to do tonight, which are a prime example of why them even being on this card at all and booked on TV at all is an extremely huge thing wrong with Monday Night Raw on a weekly basis. Just like when it's time for the Charlotte Flair Hour. Ever since she's come back, Charlotte Flair has won the tag team championships with the unlikely partner of Asuka, and since then, WWE's forgotten that Asuka was part of this championship duo and has put their primary focus on their number one golden egg, Charlotte Flair, who continues to dominate this show in ways that nobody wants to see. It would have been much better to build her up in a slower manner, maybe hold her off as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble. Do something cool like that, but instead we got her coming back to be in this. First of all, take the tag team championships for the women hostage, pretty much all for herself, and then be thrown into a storyline against Lacey Evans, who's now riding Space Mountain Ric Flair. Bam, bam, I'm doing Ric Flair, and Charlotte hates me, and so does everybody else. Yeah, bam, 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 bam. It's so creepy. It's so gross, man. It's so gross. Not only does he look like her grandpa, he looks like he could be her biological grandpa, because she looks like she could be Charlotte Flair's sister. This whole thing is just absolutely unnecessary, and who needs this? Who needs this? Charlotte don't need this. We don't need to see Charlotte. We don't need to see her in there beating Peyton Royce for absolutely no reason at all. Peyton Royce being in a tag team with Lacey Evans makes no sense at all. Lacey Evans in this Ric Flair thing is the most nonsensical thing they've come up with so far this year, and it's just more and more cringe TV being thrown at us, and I don't know where it's even coming from. Where are they going with this? What is this going to gain either one of these women? Lacey Evans is not going to go over on Charlotte Flair, and if they're using this as a vehicle to make everybody be on Charlotte's side and support Charlotte Flair, like, who cares? Who cares at this point? I certainly don't. She didn't want nothing to do with her dad anyway. She's been yelling at Ric Flair, go away, leave me alone. Why don't she just let him go with Lacey Evans? Go ahead, go bam bam all over Space Mountain all you want. I don't give a shit. I'm going after the World Championship. I'm one half of the Women's Championships. What do I give a shit about you? At one point, we had Charlotte versus Lacey Evans. At one point in the match, Lacey Evans wasn't even out there. She came out in Ric Flair's robe, which was supposed to be a big deal. I didn't care. Charlotte definitely cared. But then Lacey Evans left, and Charlotte still felt like she was there. Like, she kept calling Lacey Evans to come back out, and it was just, it brought the match down. And Peyton Royce was okay here. It wasn't the worst women's match we've had to witness, but it definitely was given an uninteresting story, and I don't care. I don't care nothing about it. They also announced that Alexa Bliss was going to have Asuka, her opponent for later on tonight, in her playground. So double duty being given to these women, a segment that is definitely unnecessary when we get to it. I guess since this was such a surprise announcement, they felt they had to do something to build up for it, so they gave us an Alexa's playground just an hour or so before they were going to have their one-on-one match, which ended up being the main event of tonight's show. Once again, just like last week, this week's show complete with a really wonky Alexa Bliss weird ending. Carbon copy. Only there was no fire involved this week. But another way they carbon copied this show is they had the Hurt Business being involved with, guess who? Matt Riddle and the Lucha House Party. This is one of the worst segments I've ever seen on Monday Night Raw. Now, this segment was supposed to gear up and give us some context going into the sixth-man match so Matt Riddle can play up an injured foot. You see, Bobby Lashley made a joke about Matt Riddle's flip-flops after he was doing his whole I'm a, half mentally disabled man-child who smokes marijuana gig. Bobby Lashley went to stomp on his feet and missed by a mile. He stomped on the floor. And he stomped on the floor so hard he must be as strong as the Incredible Hulk or the Thing or some other superhero type character that causes force shockwaves when they stomp on the floor, because he took Matt Riddle down and he injured his foot without even touching it. That's some really impressive stuff from Bobby Lashley right there. He should bring that type of stuff into the ring with him. He would be truly unstoppable. Absolutely ridiculous. Matt Riddle would even go on to try to sell this thing when they had the 6-man match, even though we all knew he missed. The commentators were talking about how Bobby Lashley injured Matt Riddle's foot and he never made any contact, and it just was made for some of the funniest shit, and it's not supposed to be. It's unintentional comedy based off of their stupidity and lack of execution in their storytelling. You want to talk about how this show continued to be a carbon copy of last week? We had Xavier Woods taking on a member of Retribution. This week it would be Mush, otherwise known as Mace, the resident predator of the WWE. Since Xavier Woods last week lost to Teabag, of course we're going to follow up this week with him losing to Mace. And the only good thing about anything that happened here was the promos that were given by Ali. Mustafa Ali gave this really great promo talking to Kofi Kingston, saying that even though he's injured, everything that they're doing is they're gearing it to upset Kofi Kingston. They are going to continue to beat down Xavier Woods for as long as he's out. So he hopes that it keeps him out even longer, because he wants Kofi Kingston to feel how he felt just a couple of years ago when he got injured before WrestleMania and Kofi took his spot in the Elimination Chamber, and the Kofi Mania that happened after the fact would have never happened if Mustafa Ali did not get hurt. And I like how they're playing off of that. However, this is going to get old really fast. And the one thing that makes it hard to watch is the fact that Xavier Woods every week, single-handedly takes care of everybody. He doesn't make Retribution, or WWE, it's not Xavier's fault, but they don't book Retribution to really look like all that much of a threat. But in the end, they've been getting the wins here, and there's, I guess, nobody else that cares about Xavier Woods except for Kofi Kingston. This guy has no friends. No, but instead we gotta watch Ricochet be booked like a loser on this show. We have to watch other people that have been put up against Retribution since they've started out, do absolutely nothing on this show. Xavier Woods just out there on his own without Big E, without Kofi. He's just meat in the water for these Retribution guys, and it's going to get old really, really fast. We had Alexa's Playground. Oh wait, before this they had a WrestleMania report, which was this video where Triple H played some guy named Hanky Panky. Stephanie McMahon had some stupid name. Roman Reigns was there. They were all there just to talk about the future locations of WrestleMania for the next 3 years. Everybody's talking about it. It's going to be in Tampa this year. It's going to be in Dallas the year after, and then it's going to be in Hollywood on the year that follow. This is not important information right now. They went out of their way to even get John Cena to be a guy named Hugh Can't See Me to report on these locations for WrestleMania. If they put half as much effort in the actual show as they did a stupid little promo like this, the show would be a hell of a lot better. It's not saying that this was great. It wasn't the best, but I mean, you could see that there was a lot of thought put into it. And that type of dedication to put together something so stupid like a WrestleMania report would be much appreciated on the main show. Then we had the Alexa's Playground with Asuka, where she taunted Randy Orton once again for getting burnt. She introduced Alexa Bliss. She was talking to nobody on the swing set. Alexa Bliss made a reference to The Fiend, talking about, I think she said something like, he's still here, and then she said, yowie wowie, and Alexa took real big offense to this. She demanded she stopped. She said, don't speak his name, don't reference him. And she started talking to her little invisible friend again. She tried to cheer up. sits on the rocking horse. She's waving at stuff. Asuka got all weird and left. It was... If you were trying to build anticipation for this match, you failed, because this was very bad. A very bad segment for Alexa Bliss here. She would make up for it later in the match, even though it didn't make much sense, but we will get to that. We had to hear from The Miz and Morrison talking about how they have Goldberg coming to the dirt sheet. They said it was going to be controversial, and they wanted to steal a line from Eric Bischoff. They're like, controversy creates cash. Then we had to go see Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax bickering. They're trying to tell this story now. A tag team that never got along in the first place all of a sudden is imploding. Woo, what a freaking surprise. Who gives a shit about this? Certainly not me. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax would then go on to have the same segment that we've seen them in the last 3 weeks, which would be a match versus Mandy Rose. Prior to this match, we had to hear Jeff Jarrett predict that Goldberg was going to beat Drew McIntyre. Great. Who cares what Jeff Jarrett thinks? This was just another way for the WWE to bring the past back. We have to hear from a Hall of Famer. We have to hear from a legend. Let's see what Jeff Jarrett has to say, since he was in WCW for a minute when Goldberg was on his run. But let's see what he has to say about everything. Shayna and Nia, as we were talking about, defeated Mandy Rose. This was like a 4-minute match. It didn't amount to anything. It was exactly what we have seen over and over and over again. After the match, they continued to not get along. And who cares about this story? These are two people that hated each other from the get-go. Did you think this was going to last very long? It shouldn't be lasting as long as it is. But every time one of them mentions, oh, we're going to go get the tag team titles, the other one seems to like calm down. It's like, yeah, all right, let's go do that. But I don't even like you, so why would you do that? Such stupid shit. Really stupid shit. And Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, it's like stop, start pushing with this team. I don't care at all for Dana Brooke, but I am mildly invested in Mandy Rose. I thought there was a lot of potential there, especially with all the attention that was put on her and her move over to Raw. She was ready for something, but this definitely isn't what she had in mind, I believe. But this new tag team that she's in with Dana doesn't mean shit, because they keep winning one week and then losing the next week to the same two girls over and over again. It's just a continuation of what you seen last week. Repeat after repeat after repeat. This show is so bad that they dedicated a portion of this show showing you guys what happened with Adam Pearce, Roman Reigns, and Kevin Owens on SmackDown. They have to fill time somehow, so let's take some of the good stuff from the other show and show everybody what they may have missed. But then we have Adam Pearce in the back, and Adam Pearce isn't selling his leg injury. You would think he would continue to do that, because if he's just walking around all fine now, couldn't Roman call him on his bullshit? And it's like, listen, I know Kevin signed the contract, but the contract says if you're hurt. And now you're walking around like you ain't hurt. So what are we going to do about this? I just think, a little consistency would be nice. At least try it. I know it's a fake injury, but at least play on it a little bit. He showed up on Raw tonight to do his, hi, I'm the GM, but I'm not really the GM, but I'm actually the GM thing. And once again, he's forcing a superstar to have to qualify for a match that everybody else is just declaring themselves into. For some reason, for the second week in a row, we have AJ Styles put in the way as the obstacle for somebody to have to overcome in order to get in the Royal Rumble. Last week it was Drew Gulak. This week that role will be played by Ricochet. Ricochet was put in a match with AJ Styles because Adam Pearce says Ricochet has to qualify, I guess, even though, Alexa Bliss qualified while she was in the playground tonight. The Miz qualified on Twitter. But Ricochet, much like Drew Gulak, has to have an actual match. He does have this match with AJ Styles, and it ends up being a great match. What I hate about this match is that in order to set up this match, they used a reference like 20 years old. large majority of the audience watching WWE, and maybe even a large majority of my audience watching tonight, has no idea what the movie 50 First Dates is, what it's about, when it came out, that it starred Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. Nobody knows that is such an old and dated reference. It just goes to show you how out of touch these guys actually are. Ricochet is trying to say that AJ Styles is Drew Barrymore because he's having memory loss. And he doesn't remember TLC when he lost his opportunity. And it was just a very poorly written, very bad segment for a guy that's not good with promos to begin with, like Ricochet, to be given such terrible shit. To say it was awful. And if you were following me on Twitter, you would have seen I actually did the poster of 50 First Dates with AJ Styles and Ricochet's head in the proper places. I don't have it set up here for you guys. I should have loaded it up beforehand, but I didn't, and I'm sorry. If you want to go see it, just go pop over to the Twitter, and you can see it right there at Nick Nightmare. Let's move on. AJ Styles and Ricochet had a great match. This was the one lonely thing on this whole entire show that was really, really great. It was a good wrestling match. They went more than 10 minutes. Commercial break, of course, got in between. But I really enjoyed this match. Even the involvement of Almost when he caught Ricochet and then was being admonished by the referee to put him down. And it was just really, really well done. Unlike the rest of the show, because the entire third hour, when this was finished, was absolute garbage. But Ricochet came off the top rope and got caught by Styles, who draped him over the top rope, and then he bounced back into the ring, into a Styles clash. It's so hard to verbally explain. You just have to go back and watch it. If there was one thing on Monday Night Raw that you need to watch, this match is it. The only bad thing about it is that Ricochet lost. So now he's such a loser that he's not even being allowed in the Royal Rumble. He's been fed and went through the ringer by Retribution. You would think they would try to build him back up by giving him a big win over a guy like AJ and a spot in the Royal Rumble, but that, my friends, is not the case. Ricochet, you can pretty much read that character, his rights. I don't think it's going very far from here. And it's a goddamn shame because Ricochet was a fantastic talent. I seen him in the Indies. He came through House of Glory a couple of times. Also, his run in NXT was fantastic. His run on the main roster has been less than stellar, to say the very least. And there's probably a million better ways to put that. This great match was followed by one of the worst segments that Raw has produced all year, which was the Dirt Sheet, where they were supposed to have Bill Goldberg, but instead we got Dwayne Gilberg. Of course, Miz and Morrison were going to pull some shit like this. I should have seen it coming a mile away. I don't know why I actually expected Bill Goldberg to be coming out on this show. Maybe because I thought they were desperate enough to try to promote the championship match, and with Drew not being able to show up, I thought they got Bill Goldberg to be part of the show. But no, you don't give two shits about the fact that he's defending or going to get an opportunity at the WWE title. He don't need to be on the show. Fuck this show. He don't really care. But instead we get Gilberg, and props to Gilberg for even being on this show. Many of you guys might not know, it was just a couple of months ago, this guy had a heart attack. So on the one end you want to think, well, WWE, maybe you shouldn't have even called this guy. I know there's no live crowd and everything, and the pyro was, not anything to really worry about. But, come on, this guy's... I mean, he looked great. He looked healthy as a horse, but, maybe not next time. Sometimes you just have to let some of these things rest. What good came out of this? Drew McIntyre's music hit as Gilberg was saying he was going to bash his head against the wall. He was poking fun at what Bill Goldberg does. And then all of a sudden we hear McIntyre's music. We know he's not there because he's sitting at home with COVID. And out comes this guy who's dressed like Drew McIntyre. They say he's from Jersey. So here comes Jersey Drew McIntyre. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, I know this guy's face from somewhere. And it has been confirmed by Sean Ross Sapp and others on Twitter and social media elsewhere that this was an actor named David Krumholtz, who some of you guys probably would know by face. He was in the Harold and Kumar Christmas movie. He was in 10 Things I Hate About You. He was also way back in Addams Family Values, if you want to see him as a little teeny tiny kid, if you remember him. I certainly do. Makes me feel old. Seeing him come out playing Drew McIntyre, this was the real life reincarnation of Drew McIntyre instead of Drew McIntyre. We had him with a terrible Scottish accent talking to Goldberg, and then The Miz and Morrison trying to mediate this whole thing, and it was really just making me want to jam my hammer straight through my temples and put myself into an early grave, because this is not what any of us watch wrestling for. I'm sure some of you might have got a kick out of it. Goldberg making his stupid blah, 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 faces and all whatever. I just don't care. And if this is the best they got to build for this championship match, then it's going to be a long couple of weeks till we get to the Royal Rumble. And I'm just having a terrible time, absolutely terrible time getting through it. I really am. So then we get our weekly 6-man tag team match. We got the Hurt Business versus Matt Riddle and the Lucha House Party. And the Hurt Business defeated Matt Riddle and the Lucha House Party when Bobby Lashley put Lince Dorado in the Hurt Lock. The one thing that I did not like about this, well, there were many things I didn't like about this. One, it's another 6-man, because God forbid we have a show without a 6-man tag team matchup. I hate the booking of Matt Riddle. I hate that he was trying to sell the foot injury that never happened. And I hate everything that they're doing with the Hurt Business and the internal struggle now that's happening. The Hurt Business has been the best thing that has come together on Monday Night Raw. It kind of happened somewhat organically. Nobody really seen it coming. It was way better than Retribution. But here they are already throwing some gum in the gears, trying to mess this thing up, and I don't like this idea. They barely even got started. There is no reason to be having Cedric causing problems. I don't like it. I understand it's adding drama, or they're trying, whatever story they're trying to tell. I don't like this idea at all. This group has a lot of mileage left to give. It's been one of the better things to watch on the show, and you're giving it a or you're not giving it away, but you're putting it away. You're putting it into the ground so soon. It's definitely not what I want to see. I also don't want to see Elias or Jackson Ryker have anything to do with Jeff Hardy. Once again, in a repeat from last week. Last week, we seen Jackson Ryker beat Jeff Hardy in less than a minute. This week, it took him about 4 minutes, only he got disqualified thanks to Elias. Are they already starting tension between this newly formed team? I could care less. How many more times do we have to watch Jeff Hardy be involved with Elias and or Jackson Ryker, or any combination of the two? If they do it even one more time, it's one more time too many. I'm so done with it, and I don't even pay attention to it. I don't care at all. Drew McIntyre shows up once again via satellite or from his home via iPhone video or whatever it is. He says he's still asymptomatic, which is great. He feels stronger than ever, which is great. He says that he's going to be back next week on Monday Night Raw. I don't know if that is actually going to be the case, but we'll see. He also told his opponent, Bill Goldberg, he needs to be at his best or he's going to get eaten alive in 2 minutes by Drew McIntyre. I don't really care, because I'm not interested in this match, but we'll see. Hopefully Drew McIntyre is back by next week, and maybe the show could take a better turn. It's not gonna, no, it won't. It'll be the same shit over and over. I'm so tired of trying to be optimistic, so let's just continue to bring the hammer down on this crap. Then we had Alexa Bliss defeating WWE Raw Women's Champion Asuka in one of the weirdest matches you will ever see. playing off of her association with The Fiend, they tried to do some cinematic type weird stuff. The lights went out, and Alexa Bliss, who came out in a bubbly little happy little pink outfit with a black onesie type, leather thing. I don't know, I ain't a woman, I don't know what you call these type of dresses, but she came out looking all cute and bubbly. At one point during this matchup with Asuka, the lights go out, she comes back and she looks very pale, very creepy, very Morticia Addams, almost like she was invoking the spirit of The Fiend. She was playing around with Asuka, purposely having Asuka stick and move sort of situation. Then she pulled the Bray Wyatt thing in the corner where she, bends back holding herself up on the second rope. Totally freaked out Asuka. And despite Asuka's best efforts, Alexa Bliss wraps Asuka up, delivers the Sister Abigail, gets the 1, 2, 3. Then the camera glitches out and switches back to Alexa in her little happy, bubbly personality. And then Monday Night Raw goes off the air. I don't understand why they hate Asuka so much. This definitely was not necessary. Alexa's supposedly channeling The Fiend, I guess, since Bray Wyatt's out of town. The Fiend's going to come to Monday Night Raw through her. I don't know. Is this going to get Alexa Bliss a championship opportunity in the future? By WWE logic, it should. It should, but that was not made clear on tonight's show or anything like that. That's just speculation here. And if that is the case, is Alexa Bliss going to take the title from Asuka? I would probably think so. Asuka's not doing anything else but playing second fiddle to Charlotte Flair right now, and we all know where that's going, which is absolutely nowhere. As long as she's the championship partner of Charlotte Flair, she's going to have that belt around her waist for quite some time. Nobody's beating Charlotte anytime soon because the WWE machine has been shoving her down our throats consistently since she's been back, and I just want to regurgitate it right back onto the television. That was tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. It was weird. It was wild. Hopefully this review was a little bit weird and a little bit wild. If you guys had a great time and you liked this show, hit that thumbs up. This way that I know that you liked the show. And it also helps us show the world that, hey, look, people like this show. Maybe you should come watch this show. And then we can gain more members to our Sledgehammer army. So share this video with anyone that you think might have a good time along here with us. Hit that like button. And most importantly, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. And come join the coolest faction of wrestling fans in the YouTube wrestling community. We don't judge each other. We don't hate on each other. We are just one big happy family. And we take everybody's opinions one way or another. We do it with respect. We do it with kindness and love. In the comment section, which is yours as always. Hit me up with your thoughts on Monday Night Raw in the comment section down below. And that, my friends, is all we have for tonight. And we will see you this Friday for SmackDown as we continue to build towards the Royal Rumble in the slowest, most least Rumble-like way possible. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Snowball, the most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you guys out there in YouTube land. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here. We will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Boom.